To the treasured pictures of 10 Showa writers book that wasn't translated, Shotaro Ishinomori and co-creator of Kamen Rider Stronger, Toru Hiyama, created the idea of Electro-Wave Tackle as the first heroine of the Kamen Rider franchise after receiving fan letters from young girls who said that they wanted a hero to pretend to be when playing Kamen Rider with other boys. However, Tackle received fewer fights because her actress's asthma limited what she could do. Kyoko Okada, her actress, died young of a severe asthma attack. Her character's only real victory in a fight ended in said character's death. According to the producer, if Stronger had 52 episodes instead of 29, they would have brought her back. Before I begin, quick note. According to Toei, Rita aka Papillon Olger aka the Purple Ranger for Osama Sentai King Olger, and Kamen Rider Naki from Kamen Rider 01 are gender neutral or non-binary, despite their actresses originally being assigned female by birth. So if you don't believe me, I'll put the links for the evidence in the description, especially after one of the actresses decided to become non-binary in real life themselves. The IP of Bizarre Interest Productions, and if you read the title of the video, this is going to be a controversial take. So I'm not watching Gavv, but I am coming into this from an unbiased guy perspective. But people have noticed that Gozyuger has the first female Black Ranger, and for the first time since Geki Ranger and Den-O, we've had the current Rider and Sentai seasons where both are written by women. Junko Komura on Kamen Rider Gavv, and Akiko Inoue on number 1 Gozyuger. Which is cool, but yeah, so far Gavv's the only River season so far without a female Kamen Rider, and Gozyuger is now 5 series in a row where only 1 female character is a Ranger. Yes, I know Gingamantu Abba Ranger was worse with 6 seasons back-to-back, but yeah, it's really dumb. It also doesn't help yellow went from a common color to now, we don't know if we want to use it because some of us at Toei think that yellow's a girl color, and for some series, a man wouldn't look cool in yellow despite being super hypocritical. So from the Sentai side, I get that. Plus, Gavv only has 3 relevant women in the show. Sachika, who seems to be support, Glada, who would be a good fit, and Slita, who died saving her brother. Oh, that's sweet. And there's leadership in the Grand New World, Mr. Boka, Jardak's daughter, Lizelle, who married Slita's brother, and Jip, which is pretty cool. So if any of them were to become a writer, people wouldn't complain. Right? Oh no. Yikes. Why him? Oh lord, some of these takes are some of the worst I've ever seen. Alright, let's talk about this. I'm trying to figure out, when it comes to Ranger and Rider's gender balance, how did we go from poking fun at Gozyuger and Q Ranger for only having 2 girls in a 10 to 12 person team, to not even noticing Sentai only has 1 female Ranger now, and saying their female characters and writers should only be in support roles? Are we serious right now? Like, Abba Ranger's last special made fun of themselves for having the Smurfette principle. You know what's crazy? Like, Mega Man NT Warrior Stream came out in 2004, and they used what they built up from the past 3 series in order combined by using 7 previous characters, combined with 8 new ones from the recent games, for a combined total of 13 members, all using a henshin system to gain Toku armor through their net navis. And what was the gender ratio? 5 women to 8 men. Sure, that's all 40%, but that is really good compared to when Sentai went for twice in 16% and 20%, with Q Ranger and Gozyuger respectively. How looking at Saber, I'd be okay if 2 or 3 riders were gender swap like Kento, Ren, and maybe Slash, because sword mechanic, since at least we've had several seasons in a row that have had 1 female and didn't kill the rider off. Like, let's be honest, the only Sentai season to ever come close to that gender balance ratio is Deca Ranger, and Deca Ranger barely even counts. Swan and Bright barely transformed from 1 episode. Marigold transformed for like 5 seconds before getting blasted out of her transformation. Yes, I know why they included her being Deca Gold too late in the script, and I couldn't change it. Even the people working on SPD admitted they were willing to have a Gold Ranger if Toei didn't give them the footage too late. Sometimes it happens. That being said, it's so cool that SPD and Deca Ranger managed to use Bright and Swan, and Cat had their own scenes. Plus, Yellow and Pink are still beloved. Guest characters can't show up as frequently, and a team with 7 active Rangers was already insane. So it's so cool that they still tried. But even, damn, the most toxic Sentai fan has to admit Akiba Ranger. The parody having 2 female Rangers and just 1 male was more gutsy than the main Sentai franchise would ever have the balls to try. of which Greg Aronitz, who was the head producer for SPD, wanted to make the first fully fledged female Red Ranger in the franchise, but was told no from both sides of the Pacific. So he made A Squad Red Ranger the Swiss villain's leader and the first female Red Ranger on either side of the Pacific. Sentai purists are never going to live down Power Rangers beat Sentai to the punch with that, even if Shinkenger did the 11th Hour Ranger concept better. Heck, Cosmic Fury is now the only Toku series with an active female Red Ranger, and look how well that out of the woodworks people notice. And it was still basically supposed to be a 20-episode series, but was cut down to 10 when most series are about 32 to 42 in America and 45 to 50 in Japan. Like, don't you guys actually want Japan to beat America on something? It can't be that you're afraid they're not going to write enough women well, because there's enough Sensei Wolf and female heroes and villains. Kira Major had Mayu and Senna. Plus, the Odanas was popular enough that she had her own redemption arc as a miniseries, where she's basically a pseudo-ranger. Hell, Sentai still doesn't have the balls to make their female six that doesn't need to share it with a guy. Also, adding this into the script, but Power Rangers and Sentai both had lesbian relationships and kisses in 2022 and 2023. Meanwhile, the one-time Kamen Rider tried, everyone else immediately forced them into being sisters, despite the context and subtext. In fact, let's list off media mostly for kids with a better gender balance than Toku or had the balls to include more women. Such as Bakugan during Season 1, Fairy Tail Strongest Team, Kaguya-sama's School Student Council, The Rising Volt Tacklers and Pokemon Horizons, Pokemon XY and Pokemon Sun and Moon's Adventure Group, The Sweet Life of Zakigoti, Your Lie in April, Survivor and Big Brother, 16, Amphibia, Team Avatar, Brizuko, and more so in Korra, and most total drama seasons. So I don't think the boys' argument works really well. It's just marketing executives are scared because they don't know how to appeal to another demographic, even though Kamen Rider avoided this problem before since they were worried about this happening in Wizard and Gotchard, but actively made the gimmick more appealing, especially since both of those seasons are in the top 10 most selling series and both had a female writer. Also, the female writer curse is a lazy excuse for bad writing. Now people are saying, well, the female writer curse is a thing, so they shouldn't bother. I hate to tell you this, but that only exists because the people or the executives behind the show either okayed it or just followed the cycle that they could have stopped at any point in time. The female Kamen Riders in Reira haven't been perfect, but it's been a massive step up from Heisei Phase 2 and Heisei Phase 1. And if someone were to genuinely tell me it was better for female writers back in the 2000s, let's look back about what happened to these women. Agito, Soichi's sister, had the power and game overed. Femme and Ryuki, movie exclusive, got manhandled by Ryuga, who's the only reason she managed to kill Oja since she was going to die until he stepped in, then dies alone in a bush with no one to follow up on avenging her sister's murderer. Fies, Mari can't use the Fies gear, Saya gets killed despite being the Ryusei student with her head on straight for most of the Delta gear, and Rina gets knocked out immediately after using Delta for the first time. Blade, Lark's movie exclusive and dies anyway. Shuki shows up and dies in the 2 episodes she's introduced in. Akira transforms once, gets bodied. The actual parts of her suits went to a guy that no one liked. Ixa, Yuri and Megami gets to use Ixa once, even though Megami's trained her whole life for this. And Kivala was a movie exclusive, but at least she played a role in the plot and didn't die. And I want to talk about Dragon Knight, but I'll have to save that point for later. Like, Heisei Phase 2 wasn't perfect either, but at least you had situations like Erika using birth temporarily, Nadeshiko returning in another film, Mage getting a character arc in Wizard and surviving, Marika being active for most of Gaim until she was killed off near the end, Alia, though she was underused, Poppy's writer debut in Arc 3 and her role in the finale, and Tsukiyomi playing a pivotal role even if they made her a writer way too late. And if we're talking about not wanting more women in Reira because some of them haven't been written perfectly, you can still give valid criticism while not pretending they weren't a step forward. Yu was an activity in Arc 4, and her lack of using her backstory in Q2 and Q3 doesn't take away from her characterization in Arc 1, alongside her dynamic with Fua and eventually beating up her abusive employer. The guest writers reducing Sabala at times to overprotectiveness as Ryoga doesn't take away her being the active antagonist in Q2, her debut and role when she's serious, or the fact that she's one of the few female writers to be the final boss. Jean, you can argue, did more to flesh out other characters like Hannah, but still had her love for her family, her dive into the weekend plot, and the final form that actually was in the show. And both Neon and Renee had moments where they felt ignored but were still relevant in every quarter of the show, with character growth from the beginning to the end of the show, with them defeating a final boss to cement their growth. It's not perfect, but using a bad writing decision from one era to ignore the progress made afterwards is just completely asinine. Also, most of these shows are written by men. So you're saying that you want men to start writing women worse? Aren't men supposed to be the better gender to some of you? If men are better writers, then by definition, that doesn't mean that writing more women actually should be a good thing and avoid all the pitfalls that you hate or are worried about. Unless, oh, well, we just want more supportive female characters that don't henshin. Four problems with that. A character can still have powers and be a moral support. Hotaru was like that for all of Gottschalk's cast. Second, why are we suddenly forgetting Rider has more than enough supportive women? That's what the concept of the Rider girl is about. Third, we've also had seasons with supportive women and female writers in the same show. And the worst part about this discourse is that not only is the point people making that you can still want a female character to be moral support, but also give them meaningful development, there's already a season that tackled this topic straight on and flat out told us you can have that in Kamen Rider. Dragon Knights. After all the other riders are sent to the Advent Void, the heroes find the Advent Master thanks to the Nomen and are able to free him from his coma, who goes back and gets some of them out like the counterparts to Zolda, Oja, Tiger, then Kid and Case. But since Case needs time to recover, he transfers the powers to Maya, Kamen Rider Dragon Knight's lead rider girl, who actually takes up the mantle before Kivala and with more original footage to boot. But the point is, as Case recovers, Maya admits to Case that while she likes the thrill, she's a journalist at the end of the day, not a writer. And while she will stand up to the occasion if she has to, journalism is her life. Yeah, she still got the chance to be one after being a bystander and support. And you know what Case says in response to that? Sounds exciting. Almost makes me want to give up fighting monsters and pick up a pen. I'm serious. Though people like you let us know why we're really fighting without you. The Xaviex of the world could tell any lie they wanted and we all just believe it. No questions asked. Keep fighting, Maya. Both of them want to fight and support the public in their own ways. One using her career and the other one through her combat skills. And both of them still respect and have appreciation for one another. And despite being one supportive and the other one being physical, it shows that we can have both physically active and morally supportive women in Kamen Rider. So why in 2025 are we acting like it's impossible to have both? Hell, Siren Combined is the first female writer to survive their whole series. While Case got vented eventually, the Advent Void is a prison meant as a healing resting chamber co-opted thanks to Ubalon being taken off the board, and Case had a much larger role in the story than Falm and most women in Ryuki. She had a character arc to loosen her trust issues, got to survive cards allowing Wing Knight and Dragon Knight to be able to return the tide, and managed to save themselves numerous times from the villains, and still return being useful. And if we're talking about supportive women, Maya does more than most female writer girls in her own series. She's immediately involved in the beginning reporting and being able to see the mirror monsters, helps Kid find his missing father, gets fired from her journalist website, had to delete her entire work after her information was stolen, has her hesitance which strikes Heroic's counterpart in price before accepting him, becomes a writer temporarily, and in the finale where the main villain has tech to block out Kamen Riders from entering the fortress, she and Trent sneak into the base with a reflective surface allowing the others to get in, and she's able to publish her adventures as a fiction book writer to earn enough to rebuild her aunt's bookstore. While I can list writer girls who stop being able to do anything other than be a damsel in distress, have nothing going on by the second half, or barely play a role in the plot to some extent. Akari, Misora, Mari, Hiyori, Rinko, Mai, Kiriko, and while I do like all those characters to a degree, the people clamoring for supportive female characters aren't pointing out some of them don't even get a chance to do that consistently throughout their own series. So, have y'all not watched 01? Izu has been by Aruto's side in developing her own singularity, and Saber May was out there bringing the writers together when Toma was busy. Yukumi's the only female member who didn't become a writer in Revice. Geets' other female writers in Lobo and even Sarah, where they're supporting Neon and Keiwa's characters. Y'all should have been feasting in Gotchard. You had Renge being a supportive friend and alchemist who helped out in battle with Sabimaru, Kyoka being the one who raised Spanner after he lost his parents and continues to try and guide him despite his trauma, and constantly being an ally to the teens when they lost Minato. That's on top of the Dark Sisters having the development lasting throughout the whole series regarding their rivals and personal issues. Heck, Hijiri was a victim of the week relevant in the first arc and then the final arc, and she didn't fight at all. And some of the comments I'm seeing are from really weird people accusing anyone who wants to see this of being tourists or just having a left-wing perspective. And while I could joke about toxic, hypocritical conservatives trying to find women who love them outside of their mother to hook up with them and be their trad wives, but again, isn't a woman doing her job and her best to support humanity with or without their powers just as valuable? There are right-wing people who support motherhood and women having careers, and while I'm not right-wing in the slightest, aren't there female conservatives in power and influence y'all watch, consume, and support financially? We want women to be supportive, but we also respect women who actively support the same movement while they have careers. So why can't we do the same thing for fictional women in Kamen Rider? And I know people are going to bring up the toys. The shows are aimed at young boys to sell toys, and boys aren't focused on in magical girl shows at all. Oh, I'm glad this argument comes up so I can demolish it. Back in late 2023, an interview I have found confirmed that Gottschalk was also going to attempt to have a female writer, since Rider is on air after Precure, making it the factor that attracts girls to continue watching Precure, so it'll be the series with the most female characters. Well, I know the magazine exists, but I couldn't find it. However, I found another interview confirming that Renee and Jade were made in Gottschalk specifically with the writers wanting to make Kamen Rider more appealing to girls. For the interview with the summer movie, assistant producer Daigo Matsuda and producer Yosuke Minato also said, perhaps due to the presence of the chemis or the bright atmosphere of the show itself, it seems that there are more female viewers who keep watching TV after Precure for Kamen Rider Gottschalk compared to previous years. Hence why the point of the movie was to encourage other people. Yeah, for All Might, but only cater to boys crowd, yeah, they managed to get viewership with women, because a good show is able to appeal to multiple demographics even if it's targeting just usually one. 2. Making content where teaching young boys that girls are their friends, allies, and capable of heroism is not bad, especially in the age where people have monetized and weaponized means to vilify and harm all kinds of women. Take Beyblade, another franchise technically aimed at boys. However, most of the top-selling Beyblades in X are ones that are either top tier in the community or were either created or owned by the female characters in the show. Don't believe me? Wizard Rod was owned by Multi, Samurai Saber was owned by Tenka, Shark Edge was owned by Mako, Sting Unicorn was owned by Uni, and White Tiger, owned by Shigeru, are used by two of the main female protagonists, their assistant, two female writers, on top of a retired legend, the team's well-rounded blader, who's also the main girl's sister and one of the main antagonists of Season 1, and the main antagonist of Season 2 on the bottom right. Yeah, to paraphrase a Beyblade fan, all you have to do is make a good Beyblade and write the girl well. Asking, why doesn't a magical girl anime focus on the boys? I don't know where this argument keeps coming from, because magical girls shows, especially the ones that Toei owns, and makes series the same length as Kamen Rider, aka Precure, has had male protagonists and actual useful male supporting characters in the past. Smile Precure had Pop, who fans considered to be better than the actual fairy of the season, who also happens to be a sister. Doki Doki Precure had Joel as an ally to the team given his fiance's disappearance, gave the girls their transformation devices and fought alongside them before. Happiness Charge had Seiji, and despite how controversial he is, Blue, both played an active role, with Seiji being able to help teach the girls martial arts and hold off the mooks. In Gold Princess had the Prince Hope be the big good of the series and end up using his powers to help the cures. Kira Precure had Julio as the first major antagonist, developing into a sympathetic supporting ally, with his own purifying powers to the point people thought he was going to become the main first boy Precure. Then Haguto had the first male cure in Henry going from a jerk rival to an ally, and the first male Precure, then ended up with the finale having everyone in the show, man and woman, becoming a Precure at the end. Delicious Party had the Cook Fighters, including Takumi, the main protagonist's love interest, inheriting his father's powers and trying to investigate the person behind getting his father kicked out of the kingdom, while the rest of the team and also developing his own powers. Then there's Soaring Sky, which was the next season that proceeded to have a male cur in Tsubasa, who was the first to be a main cur throughout the majority of the series. That was a man. Or a boy in this case. And recently, there's one for Precure who had Satoru, who essentially served as the team smart guy. A solid romance with the lead girl, that actually they decided to progress, and they're the first main character who actually got together with a preacher. And I don't have to bring up how he became a magical boy in the movie. And if we're talking about other magical girl shows, Magical Girl Raising Project had one of the magical girls be a boy, La Poussière, who had a crush on the main girl and tried protecting her throughout the battle royale. And there are other ones that I know that exist, like Lisa Dunn from Cardcaptor Sakura, Nanoha and Elio in Season 3 Strikers, and technically, the show that I do watch, Miraculous Ladybug, has half the teen heroes and boys. If boys and girls, regardless of gender, can watch superhero Magical Girl anime made by Toei with proactive male heroes, male boys, and supportive male characters, boys and girls can watch superhero tokusatsu made by Toei with proactive female heroes and supportive women. And if you disagree and your counter argument is telling people to not watch the medium that's done it before because they want to see it improve, just say you hate women and leave. This whole situation is hilarious because y'all couldn't figure out what y'all wanted less of. Female writers are yaoi gay ships. Yeah, I saw the recent reaction to Kamen Rider Gavv's latest episode where they used a Japanese word for love, and I had no idea this backlash existed. Like, didn't y'all complain last season was too straight? Again, art is open to interpretation, so whether or not the scene between the two is romantic or friendship is really up to you, unless the director and actors come out and tell us that they were intending to make it romantic or friendship-wise. But if you had a secondary or tertiary doing something like this with the main protagonist and one was female and the other one was male, would there be any sort of backlash to it? The answer is no. Okay, main point. Should Sachika become a writer? Sure, why not? Build had all 4 of its protagonists become writers with the girls on the sideline. Well, we've got 4 protagonists and no 2 secondary members to care about that aren't the villains, so why not? I know some people hear the argument that because you need an intense surgery, they don't want her to go through that, which I get. But Suga managed to find a way to do it. Again, I feel like her becoming a writer is not going to reduce the fact that she's a moral support. And just because you have superpowers doesn't mean you don't have humanity or empathy, which almost every Kamen Rider protagonist has had enough of their morals rooted in their respect for humanity. Gottschalk even had a line about protecting all kinds of life. Heck, you can be a writer and be a fun, supportive character in the story, like Poppy was. Again, people just want to see her get more fleshed out. So if being a writer allows that, I say go for it. And if it doesn't, then I just hope they work on developing her character more. But that's not an excuse to say that Gavv shouldn't have a female writer at all. We made so much progress since Tackle, so why are we trying to backtrack and regress? Oh yeah, one more thing. We almost never had a mom henshin hero who was a mom throughout the series outside of Udana and Miyuki. And Mystic Force and Majin Range were like 19 to 20 years old. Like, it's weird it hasn't happened since, and the we want more women to be more feminine crowd should want that. I mean, don't you guys want more femininity and womanhood representation, i.e. motherhood? I have no idea when this is going to come out, and I still feel like I missed out a lot of details, but I still wanted to approach this with both the level of anger and nuance the topic deserved with evidence to back it up, instead of just relying on ignorance. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed watching, because this is going to be the longest video I work on for a while, and BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions, signing off.